Hello, everybody. Welcome to News for the Soul. This is Daniel Brinkley.
This is Nicole Whitney, News for the Soul, life-changing talk radio from the uplifting to the unexplained.
Okay, everybody, take a deep breath. We know that we choose to come to this world, and we're chosen to come to this world, and we've come for breath. We breathe in for ourselves and out for spiritual unfoldment. And as we breathe these moments, let's open up our heart and open up our souls, and let the true awareness of News for the Soul make its impact now and forever.
Good evening and welcome to News for the Soul, life-changing talk radio from the uplifting to the unexplained. Tonight, it's Monday, May 8, 2006, and it's a live global webcast event. Again, Kerrie O'Connor, the amazing intuitive that we've had on for a few shows, she's here talking with me about specifically reincarnation, and even more specifically, intermixed with the following conversation that you're going to hear. She's talking about my recollection of what I believe to be my most recent life. Before this one, I've been trying to work through some of these issues with her, and it's such an interesting conversation that we decided to do it in part on the air. What isn't going to be on the air is anything that reveals the identity of my past life. You're going to hear a little bell sound like this every time the name occurred in the following conversation that we recorded earlier today. Enjoy. Kerrie O'Connor. Find her online at insideout-outsidein.com. They think they've had a past life incident or memory. Where does one start with that?
Well, what I do, Nicole, is this is how I read. I look at the whole energy field, and that our energy field contains the Akashic Records, which contains our past lives. So I can go in where I read everything is. When people get to know me, it's all tubes. I follow the tubes to go to the ball, and it's like a crystal ball. I pop into the ball. It shows me the picture, the scenario, the whole scene. I am energetically brought through the tube and brought to the like I'm an observer of that past life. So if somebody were to come to me, I could pick up spontaneous things where I just follow their tubes. And what I do is I ask their souls what their theme is here, because past lives, I believe, are here. We could have themes that are like hangovers in this life. And so to get the themes of past lives to see how they affect with this life is hugely important, because then people can start working on their issues in this life. And then, like, I call it like Pac-Man, because if there's no time, and more people are talking about quantum theory, and there is no time there, so if we understand that, and so, or pretend to start to grasp that a little bit, which is kind of hard to understand, but I always explain to people, just kind of fake it to make it, kind of expand your mind, and then just picture like Pac-Man or Pac-Woman, there's that game, the ball that eats all the excessive charge, so it goes up and like eats up a past life that could have had a charge. A lot of people that are into healing have had past lives of burning, and I kept on seeing lifetime after lifetime, Nicole, of people being burned at the stake, and I said, good God, how many people have been burned at the stake without the knowledge before that there were 5 million burned in Europe? I mostly heard, being from the United States, about the Salem witchcraft burnings and all this other stuff, not understanding that it was over hundreds and hundreds of years. It was a common thing, and there was over 5 million people burned. So then it made sense to me why I saw so many people with past lives that were burned at the stake. So that's what I do. I look at it, or let's say somebody comes in with, I have a very odd birthmark on my arm, and when I journeyed into that, I saw where I was shot as a soldier. Or somebody comes in with something like that, we could journey into that and see what happened to that. Or somebody comes in with phobias. Why is my daughter was terrified, and before she could speak of dogs, I didn't own a dog, and she was just terrified, primal survival. You could see it in her eyes. Terrified, and she was attacked by a pack of wolves and dogs, where she saw me being killed before, and she was like marred for the rest of her life with her face, but she saw her whole family being eaten, but as soon as, or killed, and when I worked on it energetically and we removed the charge, she's not afraid of dogs anymore. Matter of fact, she's bothering me. I got one. So I'm a cat family, so I love dogs, but so that's the way I look and read into past lives. But I always tell people, look at themes that are coming up. A lot of people, and then take the themes. And also, Nicole, sometimes it could seem wild, like it could seem like out of, like I could be making this up because it just seems too grand for me to be a queen or a princess and or this or that. And I tell people, I believe we've had more than one past life or two, that we've been around for a really long time, and so believe things. Just to, again, let go of the logical mind that says, oh gosh, that can't be true, and just listen to the story. And again, you could get the theme. And the theme, again, a lot of times is spilling over in this life. It could involve encouraging for self-empowerment, that you're bringing a message here for that, and or to overcome the paralyzing fears. My daughter's fear for dogs, I thought, was going to be paralyzing for her whole life. She wouldn't go to friends' house with dogs. My brother had a dog, and it was really, the first question was, did they have a dog? And she would even skip going to a friend's house, her best friend, if they had a dog. And so, but again, she was able to transmute it like it never existed in her energy. And if you were to ask her now, she's 13, she just kind of gives you this kind of like stare, like, huh? And
wow.
So, yeah. So past lives give tons of information, and it's there for the asking for us. And so again, if a client were to come, I could either go and start picking up what I'm seeing, where I'm again drawn, because I want to go to the ones that could be holding the person back. A lot of clients of mine want to start a business, and or if you notice our phone calls, they want to start a center, they want to start a business. So a lot of people that are drawn to watching this, watching a TV show and or listening to the radio have been healers, nuns, all that, people have served as shamans in the past, healers, all that kind of stuff. But if they, again, had a past life where it was not, the ending wasn't too good, or like Lemurian times or that, where we blew up, that is in our cellular tissue. In our cellular tissue, our Akashic records are within our energy field. And so, again, people could have cellular memory of being, again, killed, or the whole tribe killed, or that sort of thing, and it just holds them back. So that holds them back versus it's like their passion is kind of like in contradiction with the cellular fear that could be so strong that it could they'll sabotage themselves instead of having success. I've seen that.
So we don't really forget.
No, we don't,
level.
And that's what I'm telling. Especially the last, when I was so excited about when you were talking about the orbs the last time we talked, because when we hung up, I was you confirmed so much stuff for what I was seeing with myself or within clients, and then the week and a half since we've talked, I'm seeing more stuff as far as I'm just seeing the veil becoming thinner and thinner and thinner.
Me too.
So what does that mean? It means that I am telling clients and really encouraging them, go right directly like a master that we are and command our energy to go to those past lives, those cellular memories that still can have a grip or a hold on us subconsciously, and really release through dream, or release through meditation, or just take a walk through it, and just give as like a master that we are, just to give your intention, just to start really bringing those up front, and and people are having them spontaneously. And again, sometimes they're kind of a little bit shy. They're like, I really saw myself as a shaman and head of 100, like leading hundreds of people, and I'm like, why would you not be, somebody that would be heading hundreds of people? Why not? This is what is the theme here? You're a teacher and you're a healer and you're a principal of a school. So what is that's the shaman's role of the people, of the teacher, of the healer. So that definitely there's the threads, weaves all through our lives. And if anyone wants to glimpse into what they've had, just to really start thinking about what themes they have. What do they love to do? What do they absolutely can't stand to do? Is there something? Is there there's some parts of the country just gives me, the back of my hair goes up, and I've had a past life there where I was killed. I was actually a Mexican prostitute, and I was pushed downstairs, and the southern, energy, when I go down south, I kind of, until I transmute the energy, I got a little weary about somebody coming back behind me and pushing me downstairs. And so I think it's fascinating, this whole past life stuff. It's absolutely fascinating.
Well, I was so relieved to talk to you once we got off the air, once this came up, and because I think, as you say, it makes people feel quite uncomfortable, to the point where you don't want to say anything. It's like, oh, please go away. This doesn't fit in with my definition of what I believe in, the 3D world. So it's challenging, and I found it very distracting. But at the same time, I really get what you're saying, and I'm not quite sure how we'll go through this whole discussion without, because I really don't want to go public with the identity ban. I might just end up bleeping parts of this or whatever, but we'll just, if you hear a weird beeping sound, now you know why. It's, let's start before we go through the patterns and all of that stuff to dispelling some of the issues that block people from being able to talk about this at all. I mean, one of them obviously is 8,000 billion people all say they're like Cleopatra in their last life.
Oh, yeah. It's fascinating because I am doing a tape series, and I'm so excited about this. And actually, I'm looking to start to do a radio show with a psychiatrist, a regular MD psychiatrist. And he even came to me, Nicole, like non-believing. And non-believer, an open mind, but a very Western-trained psychiatrist that, what is this woman doing that I'm hearing about, And so what he really is intrigued with, especially with the past lives, and there's Brian Weiss, who's a Harvard-trained psychiatrist himself, who was a non-believer, who could not deny these people coming up with these experiences enough to go down to grave sites, right?
Many lives, many masters.
Yes, exactly. And so when I was talking to Michael, he said, as far as all the Cleopatras, what I see of that, as far as that, is that Cleopatra and or Joan of Arc. There's a couple of people say the Joan of Arc. And I'll see in the person, yes, there had to be a Cleopatra, but what I could see in the energy field is that they could pick up on the archetypal energy of, like, Cleopatra and or of Joan of Arc, and not saying there is not one person out there doing she was Cleopatra. What the people could have been connected to her, been in that whole lifetime period, and or a Cleopatra archetype. And so, actually I was in a group of studying shamanism, and we did a meditation where we went in the past, and this woman woke up, and she just was screaming and yelling, and she was very outgoing. I was Cleopatra, and she did the Cleopatra thing. And I was like, wow, that's amazing to see, because I didn't really see necessarily Cleopatra in her energy field. I can see what she was talking about is that there was an archetypal energy where, again, her name could have even been Cleo, and she had the energy of it, and or very similar, like the very similar story. But Cleopatra is the story through history that gives even our subconscious, is what Michael talks about, something to be able to connect to. So what I saw was this woman have a very similar lifetime to Cleopatra, but she wasn't the exact Cleopatra. But again, you go to the themes. So Cleopatra had power, had, just to go to what is the themes, and or, again, Joan of Arc. I had this woman that was the most beautiful angel energy. She was in her 60s and 70s, and really embarrassed to say, in a very church-going, needle-bending person, on her knees, and saying, Kerrie, I am embarrassed, but I think I could tell you this. I really feel like I was Joan of Arc. And when I looked through her energy field, I didn't see necessarily, again, Joan of Arc, but I saw an archetypal energy, and that's where Michael, the psychiatrist, would come in and explain the superconscious, again, has that. So she absolutely had a past life of something very similar to Joan of Arc. She stuck up for her her cause. She even cut her hair and joined the Army. And you know what? Who wouldn't? I mean, there's not only one Joan of Arc-like person out there. I'm sure she stimulated a lot of people to do the same thing. And that felt so strong with the cause. And so, and actually, she was very connected as far as a sibling with it and or like died with her. So she was I can understand where she felt the connection. So when we have spontaneous that we're all the Cleopatras and stuff, I understand it as an archetypal energy, and I still say to not poo-poo it, to just take what it is, take the story of the person, because again, they have the archetypal energy, and I can't, for years, and I'm going to do some self-exposure here that I've never said to anybody. I guess I'm just saying it out. I really felt, not that I felt that I was Mary Magdalene, but I was very tied in or sibling or sister or this real connection. And I saw her since I was little with Jesus, and it was just like this real connection with her that just family, just total family. And then being raised Catholic, to say I was, well, she wasn't really shown very well in the Bible. I think of her as totally different. I was like, well, if there was a prostitute, that wouldn't be very good. But it was, she's very empowered. She was empowered. She was the empowered apostle, the 13th, and so she was very empowered. And so thinking that I could be connected and or in the similar group at the same time was very empowering to me when I stopped listening to my head of, who are you to think you're doing that? Who am I not to? And then when I released that, out came cellular healing when I remember the Last Supper, and I remember a little bit different than it was in the Bible. And it was with many people there, and not like thousands, but at least 150. And those people are starting to have spontaneous waking up as far as that. So it's quite interesting to the subconscious of that, and that's what Michael, I love that we're weaving in that piece, because it is, again, Nicole, it's that he comes in and he's Freudian trained, and so here Freudian was an atheist, and so here he comes in and he says, I just cannot deny, A, what I read from him, and B, what he understands as far as the symbolic language, too, also that people are having, kind of like a Ryan Weiss thing. He cannot ignore that, and he's had his own. He comes in with, ribs missing, and he also keeps on having this thing of not being heard and or just fighting a cause and being probably killed for it, and that's a theme that he's going on for in this life too. So
wow.
Yeah.
Well, that makes so much sense. I mean, it's like in remote viewing when you're learning how to do the structure, which is a science for, psychic ability. And everything comes up for a reason. We have our analytical overlay that gets in the way and screws things up or something, or changes the meaning of, but there's still, there's always the what is underneath that. So that makes so much sense. There's always a reason for it coming up.
Right, exactly.
So it totally validates us, as opposed to this whole, is it true, is it not true,
Right. That's where I like to encourage people, get beyond, that's like the ego wanting us to stop there at that tube, travel down the tube more and see what else is there. And again, even if sometimes you have to fake it till you make it, or if it feels a little bit far out for you, where does it have to, it cannot hurt you, it's not a bad drug, it's healthy, and even if you're exercising the flexibility of your brain, it's like there's just all good benefits of it. But then I'm seeing when people really start just kind of relaxing and surrendering, especially in the last week and a half, people are having, again, kind of like these spontaneous past life memories, be it through dreams or just even driving. And it's really kind of interesting. I heard my children talking yesterday, and we talk all the time. I'm a single parent, so we're really tight in with my kids. And they said, Richard, remember, they're dreaming, Nicole, but they're having deja vus, that in their friends, their peers are talking about the same thing. So there's a bunch of, my kids are 10 and 13, that are having a spontaneous deja vu kind of dreams, that it is a constant thing that's going on, especially, they said, in the last week and a half, that their peers are talking about. So they, again, my son would talk about him having a past life thing at the same time when he's doing schoolwork. And just, having a deja vu experience is different from past life, but the kids are waking up like wild. I almost went off the side of you when they were talking, they were just like talking like, just like it was just Sunday afternoon conversation of how their deja vu experience. They didn't tell me that one. They told me everything, but they didn't tell me that one. And the thing that I was so excited about, it was their peers were saying the same thing. Their peers were understanding it. My house is all about energy, and they understand that. But to have the peers talking about we're having deja vu and also seeing other experiences like past lives at the same time within the last week and a half and stuff like that. These kids, if they don't have parents to shut them down, it's very natural for them. So then, again, go to the power go to the power ones and the ones that have been very disempowered. Do energy work to disengage the cellular memory. My son has some very powerful lifetimes. It's like almost like this wizard shamanic energy, and part of his little body has been fighting it. He's 10 years old now, has been fighting it energetically since he's been 4 years old, and even other energy workers would see how much he has this like inner struggle, and the struggle is more of a clear knowing on a subconscious cellular level of the shoes he has to step into, and wasn't like his physical body wasn't ready for that response. He wanted to be a kid first, and so he is a kid first, but now he's really, I'm seeing at 10, really starting to step into it and not being so afraid to push it away. And as he's letting it happen, these waves of, again, like past lives or stuff like that will just come through. And I sit, Nicole, he'll be driving in the car, and he just, like, kind of stares, and I see what he's looking at. He's just, like, processing stuff at an amazing speed. Like, these kids just go through their energy fields and just start processing stuff, and he's, like, releasing, like, where somebody would have a release, like, on an energy work table and or prenuptial or something, and he's just releasing stuff to, again, hold his power instead of disempower himself. So it's wonderful.
It is. It's interesting. I want to get back to that veil thing by the end of the show and talk about what's been happening here lately as well. But I want to ask you in the meantime here to get in. I want to get into like sort of a couple nitty-gritty details, so I can try to kind of understand from a first-person point of view how one gets through this and doesn't become distracted by it, or as you say, getting stuck in the tube.
Right.
I don't want to get stuck in my tube. But when I first disclosed to you about what memory I had, did you see archetypal or literal?
I saw literal.
Yeah, because I get that so strong that it's...
Yeah, and I don't see literal a lot, but I see archetype a lot, but no, I saw literal. And I've seen literal of some people that were huge, so no, I saw literal.
Wow. So, because I got, that was what I got when I first realized or had this memory, was I saw patterns, complete repeat of patterns up till death, or in this case, waking up. And so I totally understand from a, experiential place that this is about transcending the crap that wasn't transcended last time.
Exactly.
Is that accurate?
Absolutely. And not only that, especially with, she really had that goddess artist archetype going. She just didn't have the support. She didn't have the, she needed you and I now. She needed very good feminine support. She needed actually male and feminine. She just needed support, their energetic support, where I'll look in somebody's energy field, Nicole, and you know what you do, Kerrie and Prince. This is why I know literally you are, because on the right side, and even going back to where the abusive father, adopted father came in, is that the same imprint, okay? And I was always intrigued with her. I really felt a lot of pain for her. I felt her pain, and because she can have a theme for tons of people, especially the baby boomers age of being disempowered, not being heard. I have so many clients, Nicole, that their throat chakras are shut down because they can't speak up to say, I have to leave this marriage, I have to leave this job, I have to do that. Their prostitute comes out. Their survival prostitute comes out and instead he embodies the goddess energy, they prostitute themselves and stay in a marriage or stay in a job that they hate or stay in this because they don't have the strength. And as far as with me, she comes in with, like, picture, where I see an energy field is like picture an egg with somebody standing in the middle, 2 feet above, 2 feet below, 2 feet all around. And then I look like at gaps, like puzzles. So if I look at on the right side's the male side, so I look for where's the father support. And it will be like like in a comic strip where there's just where they put the words, but it will be empty, right? And so there was no male support. And you have, again, the same imprint. You came in, so she, with the same imprint. She came in fast because she knew it, because there's a part of her. Then this gets into the multidimensional part, because I'm talking to her, that is you right now. And that she was very intuitive is what she's telling me, and she had gut reaction. She was just totally cut off in her throat, like she was like strangled is what she's showing me, and just really twisted. Her whole throat chakra was absolutely twisted. And actually it's interesting. She's telling me about hypothyroidism. Do you have thyroid problems?
Is hypo is when you have trouble keeping the weight off?
Hypo actually can be very tricky, because hypo, you could be thin as a nail, but my sister-in-law is hypo, but she's very, very thin. And hypo is the most undiagnosed one, because everyone thinks that it means that you are heavy and tired, and hypo actually could even come in a very tricky way of being that you're hyper and you get anxiety and you can't sleep and stuff like that, and it's very, very undiagnosed. And another doctor friend of mine is saying probably 60 to 80% of the world, including women, are not diagnosed, and it's attached to every single cell of your body. Also, if you get a TSH, Nicole, and they say it's within normal limits, ask what it is. And this guy down here, and he wrote with Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. He's the endocrinologist that helped her write the little blue book that's a component with that 35 years ago. He's a companion, he's a colleague of mine, and he says 3, if you're 3 and above, and you are even asymptomatic, he still treats you, because he says 3 is too high. So I'm just saying that because she's coming in and pointing to your thyroid. And again, not doing weight. People always go to the weight part, and doesn't have to be the weight part.
Well, I've had a hell of a time keeping weight off. I'm in the middle of, literally, of losing 100 pounds.
Oh, wow. Congratulations for you. But that is another, I'm telling you, so you're having a hell of a time keeping weight off. That's
hell of
hypo.
a time.
That's hypo. Nicole, I was so undiagnosed that my T-test, which is supposed to be between like 0 to 3, was 75, and they were telling me, here's your Paxil, here's your Advil. And I did not have, I was hypothyroid, so I could really pick up when people have thyroid stuff.
Wow.
And for you, I would definitely check your thyroid. There's a book out called thyroidpower.com. I mean, look at .com. They have questionnaires 1 through 20. Go and look at it, and I tell you, get the book. The book was written by an endocrinologist that was not able to diagnose his own wife, who was a nurse. And here she was at this part where it's just unbelievable, because, again, it is attached to every single cell. In my body, weight went up so high, and where before, in my 20s, it did a very thin, where I was like almost looking anorexic, and then it got to be where I ate salad, and I was 200 and something pounds. It was
Yep. Yeah.
And I didn't eat anything, and so especially because that you come in with that imprint, okay? So she's absolutely talking about it. But even going with the mental mind of that, Nicole, that is attached to every single cell of your body. And Michael, my friend the psychiatrist, was talking last night that he is the largest component as a psychiatrist for the thyroid, because it is going with depression and with eating issues and just everything. And he says the mental component alone, anxiety, this, and down to dementia when it's not recognized. And he is a huge advocate, thank God. And because I see it goes really with people that have your energy colors of the green, blue, purples, and you got those colors, and those the endocrine system gets hit. So, and just really pointing to that, so I'd really pay attention.
That was another one of the memories that came back, was that I remember this happened in that life too, where all of a sudden I'd start poofing up.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yes, that's why she's saying I did it then. I was not diagnosed, I can't. The morethyroidpower.com was talking about people that were probably even that went to the insane asylums back when our grandmother's age and stuff like that, because it was thyroid, but it went purely to dementia, and again, they don't know anything about thyroid. It's the woman's disease, so they don't spend the money. They don't know what the lab levels are supposed to be. So when they say you're within normal limits, I beg to differ, because if you ask a good endocrinologist, they'd say, we don't know what the limits are. Then they start taking family history, and you have a positive family history through marriage, through your lineage. And so,
yeah, which I actually don't know either, being adopted this time.
Right, but that's where I'm seeing your biological family coming in, and they're showing me positive history. And so, and that's when you start getting family, doctor's attention, finally, when you say family history. And I tell many clients to say, you now have a positive family history. Your dead grandma was saying that she wasn't diagnosed, and that's where she was so severely depressed. And the depression and or the mental component, I'm an avid reader, and I wasn't able to read beyond a paragraph, and I was having trouble reading, and that's some of the symptoms. And then when I finally had my thyroid scanned, they said it looked like a war zone, and I probably had it since I was 19 years old. And then when I look back, my weight struggle was going. I was struggling with my weight since I was 19 years old, and then I had this period of before you turn very hypo, you turn very hyper. So was there a point where you were very thin, where you had?
That's almost my exact pattern. I was rail thin until I was about 19. Then struggle, all of a sudden poof. So I was constantly up 20, down 20, up 20, down 20.
Yep.
And then I went through in the 90s somewhere in there a rail thin period.
Exactly. That's exactly. You're showing me the exact. See, it was my face over yours. I did the same thing in the 90s. Very real thin. Everyone thought I was anorexic, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm eating. But I couldn't eat. I wasn't hungry either, And so I would absolutely get a good endocrinologist. And that book has endocrinologists that are listening to other, that's how I found Dr. Lang. And then again, he ended up writing this book with Louise Hay, which is wonderful. And 25 years ago. So he's a medical intuitive that is totally into mind, body, and soul. But here's another thing, as far as past lives, as far as other diseases and imprints that are in the energy field that are as real can happen. And then you could even follow, as far as when I look into the energy fields, as far as the imprints of the likelihood of hypothyroidism and or diabetes and stuff like that, that they sure as heck, they carry it in from the other life. And never mind birthmarks and stuff like that, but they could carry in diseases, and it's beyond genetics. It's right in their part of their past life patterns.
So that can be partly, perhaps, why the memories come then?
Yeah. And again, you do have the energy field of the intuitive, clairsentient person that it takes the whole evolution. There's another healer that's saying this, is our endocrine system's really taking a hit with it. And so we have to, so there's going to be more hypothyroidism than there has been, but hopefully it's going to show out for our kids. I don't want my daughter to go through the same thing I did. And but the endocrine's taken, says it's the most delicate, and or I just see it's getting rewired, but we're the forerunners on the rewiring, just like how we're back. Usually I don't see them come back that fast. The soul come back. It needs a rest for a while. But again, she part of her, I'm seeing, it comes in with such high purpose, knows exactly where we're at right now as far as anchoring in the peace. Knows that we're at the forerunners. Part of us, we're the babies, we're the neophytes in this whole evolutionary process when you think about it, but also we're not. We're old, ancient souls. I call us like we're on the A-team to come down to help wake up the people again. And so having to turn around and come back so fast is that she felt so much peace. And again, she keeps on showing me when her thyroid was unraveled, her head got there. And as far as the whole suicide thing, I really question that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I do too.
Always have. And again, even her action, she's showing me my ex-husband, and I was in this thyroid fog, Nicole, where I knew my life was at risk with my ex-husband, and he was ready to repeat a pattern where he, in a past life, killed me and my 2 children I have now. And when I asked him to leave, there's a really funky energy that came around. It was this 2-week period that it could have repeated the pattern again, and he had guns, and I was just so tired thyroidly that I knew it, but I didn't care, and all I got to the point was, well, if I go out with my kids, I mean, that's how bad it was.
Wow.
But she's showing me something very similar, that the 2 weeks before she died, she knew she was at she knew cellularly that in everything that she was at a real risk here, and that it was just like she just was so thyroidy out that part of her didn't, like, it was just, she didn't care. It's not that she didn't care. She's showing me, and it's not that I didn't care. I just
didn't have the energy to care.
Exactly. It's like I didn't have the energy. I was in a fog. I didn't know. Nobody was hearing me. It was just, and so it was just like kind of like a surrender. Oh well. But she knew she was at a very high risk for 2 periods, and that's where again she has to come back as far as the goddess, because there's some people that are still around that still know the story of her.
Well, it's so weird how the pattern's repeated but extreme. You know, so like it would be more noticeable the second time, or however many times. And I grew up in a very patriarchal, disembodied kind of, you're not related to us, but you live here. That was the introduction. And my quote-unquote mother figure, she didn't even drive or work, so she was completely...
Oh, wow.
In the extreme unempowered.
Right. So you really chose it but that's part of the oversoul too, of the very strong, how old and how strong, Nicole, you are to again, choose to have it rough like that again. You know what I mean? To choose it to look and say, look how disempowered she is, and decide very young, I'm not having that. And again, coming in with, that's what I'm talking, you have the bubble on your right side as far as the blank patriarchal father. It's like, it's just blank.
Yeah.
And, but part of that blank is where this time you're filling it in who and what is there, and you're filling in your divine feminine, divine male, and your divine female, and last time she didn't know that. She didn't have the support and or knowledge and or all that, but she keeps on saying she did. And so that's where I would really encourage you to start really paying attention, especially when you get your thyroid regulated, as far as what you're starting to remember cellularly, because she keeps on saying, I did, but I didn't. I did, and she's not playing games or speaking cryptic, because that part of her absolutely knew her job here, and or very close to that housekeeper's name. I'm seeing that there was like a very close bond there, and even that she did tarot cards or something like that. So there's a lot of her that there's a lot of people don't know, and she believed, and also saw or sensed angels is what she's shown, the Archangel Michael in particular. So there was just this part of her that has this like really mystical part, but that also I always see with abused children, they tend to have figures around them that are helping them through the abuse. I have not seen one abuse child that does not have angels around them and or like a unicorn or something like that. That's always my symbol of abuse, and especially sexual abuse.
I used to see lights behind my head when I was little.
Yeah.
And then I would turn to see where the light source was, and they would turn with the back of my head, so I could never see. But I remember that all the time.
Yeah, that's exactly. So you're understanding what she's saying. If I came in knowing a lot of stuff, including that. Like everyone doesn't have that, and turning your head. Where's the light? Where's the light?
It was like this hide and seek thing.
Right.
Actually, yeah. Now that I think about it, I mean, there was a lot of things like that when I was really young. I remember my first incident of seeing something that was there but wasn't there, or shouldn't have been there, or was anyway.
Right.
The thing that defied laws of this universe. The first time was I was like 3 or 4, and it was just like, early morning light coming in the room, probably about 6 in the morning. And I look over and there's like toys, those blocks with the letters on them.
Yeah, yeah.
On the middle of the floor, someone's put toys, And I remember running out of the bed and kneeling in front of them and trying to pick them up, and my hand went right through them. And at that point I went, oh crap. And I went right into fear, zoomed back into bed, and went right under the covers and stayed there. But I always had the sense that something, from a loving energy was putting those there.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the abandoned child. That's what I say. They have the like angel children around them that play, or like my parents didn't answer when I was the abandoned child and the one that was kicked out of the 5 kids, and it was a painful growing up, but it was absolutely a blessing because it does help you open up to the mystical, magical. They're Jesus and Mary literally came in every night when my mother didn't answer me. And when she was too drunk to answer, they just sat there and just kind of held space because I couldn't sleep at night. And so, and they would bring in other children to make you laugh and all that other stuff. And so, and the more and more clients I talk about that have had that where parents are not there for whatever reason, if they think about it, they kind of remember, or if they don't remember, their energy remembers when I'm sitting. I'll pause for a second, and their cellular memory remembers because they just kind of relax and they breathe, and then they have like a cellular memory remembering. And again, they don't have to have a full spontaneous, but their soul knows that they were watched over and they were taken care of and stuff, and it's just very relaxing for healing. Not is relaxing, it's healing for them to know that they were absolutely taken care of and not totally abandoned. But that's wonderful as far as the toys.
I'm glad we're talking about these things today because, who knows how many people out there, people don't have these conversations out there.
But it's interesting, again, in the last, month and a half, is that I keep on noticing continuously when I'll dare to take that little step, and sometimes I'll be sitting there with a big 6'5" guy that looks like he's, whatever, but I'll just say it from my heart, and I'll just say what I'm seeing. And Nicole, they're not rejecting it anymore. Before it used to be like it could almost feel and look like somebody serving me a tennis ball back, right? And sometimes if it had a charge, it would be like they're throwing it back to me right in my energy field, like screw you, bam, it comes back to me. But now they're not. There's no more tennis balls coming back to me. Their cellular memory is waking up, and they smile and say, I kind of remember that. Or they just sit there for a minute, and again, their heart smiles. Or they have a spontaneous relief from their heart because, again, they're recognizing on a cellular level that they weren't alone, and that is so healing for even the past lives because, again, we come here in here with the patterns. And so if it was abandonment and stuff in this pattern then in here, then it was in other lifetimes. Also, what I'm seeing is people spontaneous kind of rebirthing themselves. And so if the birth uterus was kind of I'll see like very fire in your birth mom. And also, was she very young?
I don't know anything about them.
Don't know anything? Okay, because I'm seeing...
As far as I know, I'm an alien and I was hatched.
I'm seeing 16 to 17 years old, so I'm seeing she could be very young. But also I'm seeing a lot of weeping in there and also positive thyroid. And so, but what I'm doing with clients is that having that uterine experience change into exactly what you're saying, the alien, but how about this, the crystal city, which you're all familiar with and that you love, like redoing the birth condition, that cellular memory condition of having a very welcome home uterus, and that you were held in. And so when you come out again, it's like it's a much more welcomed, energetically supported part. Like you feel the whole energy body looks different. And then when we do this again, what I see is coming up in front of the energy fields are again these tubes and balls. And again, the balls are what is the themes, what is here to cellularly to let go. And like with the tubes and balls, the way I see it is that we kind of stopped on our balls, like sitting on our balls, and our balls could be like our stories, where now we're stepping off them and going on, and again, realizing how much we're connected to other parts of, it all goes back to that we're all one, but it all goes back to starting to, those balls contain the stories, start to transmute those so we could really hold who we really are and start getting excited about that, which again releases cellular memory, and then it has more connections to where I call it that it's the energy of that she or you. And this is where I'm seeing spontaneous releasing of past lives, because people are letting go of the stuff, taking in the empowerment and celebrating that, and again having heard and having her throat chakra unwind, and having, because again, if we go that into kind of grasp that there's no time, and a lot of people have it, and even myself, I had, no time. But I remember Jesus saying it from when I was little, there's no time, it's infinity. And I used to walk out to my father, what's infinity? What's infinity? I was 3 years old. I didn't know the word infinity. He's like, where did you hear from that? And I said, Jesus told me infinity. He said, there's infinity stars and we're infinity old. What's infinity? And she would just not answer me. So I'd ask her this next night, what's infinity? But again, we're entering in this period of just going into, taking in, going through the past, into the past to get the strength to realize that there's a part of you that is now. And so again, it's taking that embodied in that beautiful teacher, soft goddess part, and then again flushing out. And you know what it is? It's, Nicole, I just heard even like spiritual liposuction, and even as you're doing this, it'll help with the weight, especially with the thyroid and stuff, because she's showing me, because again I see it as we expand the energy field and release and have release from the past lives any kind of the pain. It really is like a spiritual liposuction, because it holds in that condensed energy. And again, all of that is in our whole energy field. And so that's where, again, it's where some people are just like, they hit a wall wherever they're running, and they hit a wall. And again, where I see it is that they're much more afraid to succeed because of stuff that has happened before than they're much more comfortable with the wall than go stepping beyond it. And so we're really getting a lot of help from the spirit people to, again, go off the balls, to have the balls be bouncy balls. You know, those balls the kids sit on, they bounce, and so they're fun. So we want to leap into our next step in development, and take all those aspects of us, the empowered part, and again learn the gifts. But this is where spontaneous, Nicole, where I've had people when they retained a past life where there was dormant things, where they're a very good musician and or a musician in the past life, and then all of a sudden they pick up an instrument and they start playing. Myself, I know as a writer in many, many times, and I always know I have these books to be written and to come out and stuff like that, but sometimes I'm like, oh, when am I going to do it with time and blah, blah, blah. But I'm calling in that lifetimes where I was a writer. So again, then all of a sudden I'm getting inspired in spirit to pick up the pen and just channel, and so that's the wonderful thing of having the knowledge of the past life in such a proactive way, where it's like, okay, I've done this in the past, I've done this in the past. When I do really deep healing, if it's somebody that has very deep soul tears and they're just so tired, I'll call in the highest of my shamanic energies and have those lives around me, where again it feels like I have an entourage of people, but I also know that the entourage are aspects of me in another life that is not charged, it's just again empowered. And so this is where when we start doing this and start and have people understand, hey, let's start doing this, start looking into the past life to again flip it around to be the place we could come from empowerment, draw on their strengths, because again, more people are starting to understand with quantum physics there is no time. And so couldn't it make sense that we could draw in on that singer, that writer, that actress, that healer in this life? And then when people sit there and think about it, they say, well, yeah, I never thought of it like that.
But that makes so much more sense, than thinking that we're going to go through infinite lifetimes. Forget everything and start over fresh and be a complete idiot from the beginning again.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
And it wasn't very empowering of me running around all this time going, la, 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 not listening. So, that's one of the reasons I wanted to honor this and step into this and have this exploration. But I've also been vehemently trying to get it, once I kind of, okay, all right, this isn't going to go away, so let's see what this is about. And I have to tell you, one of the ways I was trying to, because ever since, with the quote-unquote family life growing up, I've pretty much been alone my whole time. So,
right.
Single mom, right? I live for my kids now, and I can, on occasion, get into sort of that male energy, raw, got to do everything and make it all happen and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
So I've taken to heart from our first conversation here and from sort of the insight I was getting around that in the last few months, and I've taken up belly dancing.
Oh, cool. Good for you.
4 times a week.
Oh, wonderful. But you know what? My daughter wants to do it, and I think you just convinced me that I got to go do it with my daughter.
Awesome.
It's core. And Nicole, I have the same thing. I have a lot of life by myself, and I have raised my kids. There's the kids in my life, and I could do the raw thing, too. Belly dancer that is wonderful.
It is one way to take you right out of that space, get right into your inner goddess immediately.
Yes.
And love it.
How wonderful. That is perfect. Guess I'll be looking for the classes.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so I think inspiring people to take it for whatever lesson is going on here and see what we can apply now seems to be the message of the day here.
Definitely.
But beyond that, though, you mentioned the end of that life, and something isn't right at all about that, and it's almost haunting,
Right.
So I'm wondering if things come up, like if people have something that comes up that keeps at them, like there's a message and we don't know what it is, what can one do to explore further without being kind of front-loaded by people or,
Mm-hmm. What I would recommend is to just really get in. If you're personally seeing it or somebody is seeing it, walk through it. Because I've been to many past lives where I saw. You know what, Nicole? It's where I see people do this a lot, and of course, it's cellular memory fear. So it's getting back over that tiny degree, but it could feel terrifying, especially if there's a murder involved or something like that. That is a terrifying kidnapping, murdering, this and that. It's like the soul goes, I don't want to go back there. Then I promise, you go through there with it's just one tiny degree, because what I see continuously is that when I looked up, when I was pushed down, the stairs, and I looked over, I saw my ex-husband have remorse in his energy field that I didn't see before when I had the past lives. I didn't see it until after we're divorced. And as soon as he had the remorse, I had this bump on my heel that spontaneous released, okay? And the bump was causing me a lot of pain, and the bump was part of where I tripped on my shoe because of some shoe I was wearing back then, and so it was becoming more and more painful. And so as soon as I released that, because I saw compassion in his eyes, I was able to release that bump. Also, when I saw him after, again, when he burned me and my kids, I got stuck in me and the kids screaming, Nicole, right? And I said, I have to go beyond this, because I am carrying the charge, and my children are picking up this, that we are picking up their screaming, and then this man, the ex-husband, is the one that turned us in. And then again, when I forged through it, and it helped when I got rid of him. So with you, I feel like I want to scream, like the throat chakra wants to scream. But as soon as I was able to just move it 1 degree, again, then I flip the mind to go to afterwards, right? And then afterwards, I saw, again, that he ended up hanging himself because he had regret. And then again, seeing that he had regret was able to me transmute it. So as far as when people could get stuck in that place, I always say just go to one clip ahead, just one, like not the very end, go to one clip ahead of it, like you're just speeding up time, because again, we don't have time, and understand that when we go, that we could even see people around us for a nanosecond look at us, and even if they were our murderers or whatever, have remorse and say, my God, what a beautiful soul, and I had no power, but higher powers told me to do this and have a lot of compassion, and just and even if just one tiny dot of light thought of that, just hold on to that to be able to go beyond it, because that showed I was able to do huge healing after I went to one clip beyond it. So if people just go to one clip beyond it and understand that there is a lesson here, then you could speed by and say, okay, what was the lesson? And again, especially if it involves other people, because I kept on having this thing with my ex-husband, then I realized I cannot be having all these my ex-husband things where he is the one that's mean to me, that burns me at the stake and stuff like that. So I said to the universe, show me something when I know that everything is equal, and it has to be, and so I must have not done something nice to him. And they showed me one clip. I vomited because it was so disgusting that I never wanted to see anything again, and I totally understand that we are even, or that there is balance in the universe, and that I just want to karmically go on to going past the balls to have fun and to bring the empowered part and even into the healing part of the relationship of this time with this man called my ex-husband, because we have 2 children together, and just bring the healing aspect in and not bringing in all the charges of the past life. And then we're able to have a cordial encounter, because we still have 2 young children. So it's huge to go to that clip after. It helps. And if you go to a stone wall because of cellular memory is just freezing you there, and or your throat tightens up because it again is totally fear, picture that point in another part of life when there was toys on the ground from the angels, and that the angels are picking you up and bringing you to the next clip. And again, the next clip is when you're embraced by these angels, and then you say, I want to go right back down there, because this time I'm doing it empowered. This time I got the rules, dust me off like Wizard of Oz, like Dorothy. Bring me through the dusting off period. Bring me to the Oz place. Please get me all reordered, because I'm going back down again, because I know I'm not missing out with what's going on now, because this is a huge place now, and so I'm going back down that chute right now. And that's like, you didn't accidentally turn around and take a left and come down. And you know what? Also, Nicole, I see a lot of, a friend of mine who started a business with me, she was from the Jewish concentration camps, and she also turned around and came back real fast. And she hit a point, and she was a musician here, but there was a huge betrayal there where she was really well known there. Then there was a betrayal, then she hit a certain age, and she hit a deep, dark depression. It was even the splitting of the business, because the depression she could not get over. So I really have seen personally where the past life parts can just come in and just take a stranglehold of us. And I was just like begging, saying, Sharon, you could just go beyond it, go beyond it, go beyond it. And part of her almost went to this part of paranoia that everyone was going to hurt her, everyone was going to burn her or betray her, or like in the past life, maybe I was on the other side and I was part of a killer. And I'm like, no, I swear I wasn't, And if I was, I'm sorry. What are we here to do now? Just like, let's get beyond that. And so where's the strength? But the cellular memory could be really, really, it's nothing to sneeze at. It's very real, and but also when we get that look at the other side of it, it could be the most empowering force that we can have.
So these things are coming up so we can heal them, perhaps.
Absolutely.
I'm totally relating to what you were saying about how the subconscious sabotage program going on, and we don't know what is going on with it. Like for me, having now I'm doing these shows, and the show is growing, and part of my mind's going, well, great, that went well last time, didn't it? Yeah, that's excellent, buddy. Yeah, let's all die again. Excellent plan. So I know that that's there cognizantly.
Right.
So what else can people do? Do you do regressions? Do you do people?
Yeah, I'll bring regressions as far as I have a lot of friends that are past life regressions, and I think they get a little angry with me because I say, let's do a whole bunch of lifetimes at once, and so we could do it very quickly. And they look at me and they say, no, we're supposed to be doing a lot of appointments and a lot of money. And I say, no, We can do this. And so, again, I'll go into a person and go into a thing. But a person can do it themselves, Nicole. And, again, that's where I like to tell people. I like to save people money. That if they sit there and really think about a theme and or what was in their life and or what were they intrigued with, like what kind of era were they intrigued with what kind of era did they just happen to know stuff even about school, or when they were in school, and or in school they could not take enough of that information in, and or like my daughter is absolutely intrigued with many eras. Actually, Taylor remembers a lot of her past lives, but this princess, this Victorian part, where she even wants to dress the part, a Victorian part, a lot, even with proms and stuff like that, because it was a very positive life. So I tell people, as far as regressions, of course there's people that you could go to regressions, especially if you're getting stuck. But really, if you're getting stuck, go there empowered with the theme. Do a little work, sit down a little bit and say, okay, where is this spilling over with? Do I draw the same people? What is the theme with the men in my life? What is the theme with the women in my life? What is my theme? Have I been, again, afraid of fire, afraid of this? Where do I sabotage myself? And then go there with your intention of saying, I'm going here, but I'm going to not only go get one lifetime transmuted, I'm going to go there with a theme to come back and create a cellular healing on many lifetimes, because I really do believe that we come down here with the theme to have us transmute the theme, to wake up to who we really are, and who we really are God, pieces of God, but the way that God says we're pieces of God. We're huge pieces, not like pieces in the sand, pieces of sand on a beach. We are pieces as big as the universe, in that, and as soon as we start remembering that, again, we start, like I see like a waterfall of people releasing cellular memory, and then again, we could just, and then say, and command your body to release. I was telling a friend of mine today, she was getting stuck in a cellular memory of molestation, and I said, really, it's not discrediting anyone's experience. I've experienced everything, and so it's like, but I also know that when you command your body to go through it, release it, like with a very high frequency energy, it's like a kind of like a spur that you keep on putting this high frequency energy at, that all of a sudden that spur just gets transmutes, and all of a sudden it's just this ball that just swings, and all of a sudden it's just like wisdom gains. You don't have any spurs or like burrs off of it anymore. All there is a shiny ball, and when it's a shiny ball, then we have the opportunity to have, again, the wisdom of it. What was my talents in those lives? What was my hidden talents that I might not have known because I spent too much of my lifetime at that time trying to survive? And what, again, in my life here do I have as hidden talents? What did I always like to do? What, again, did I really like? And realize that we are consciously going through and pulling those things forward to, again, support us in an empowered way.
So look for the lessons.
Absolutely. Look for the lessons. And they're there, and it doesn't take a long time. People, I don't have time. I'm like, oh, yeah, you do. You could sit and do it when you're driving. You could do it when you're in line at Starbucks. You know, we could do it all the time. We could do it when we're ordering deli meat. Just really sit there and just kind of think, like, what is my theme? And again, sometimes all we have to do is think of the last year or two of our own life in this lifetime to really get a good grip of what our themes could be in our last lifetimes, and or what we're drawn to, and on as far as like TV, what eras we're drawn to watch. I had my honeymoon was in Ireland. Absolutely know I had a past life in Ireland because I recognized, and England, I recognized towns, and there was this castle that I know I was all connected to, and so some of them were really just very, very pleasant, and so to bring in that time of real peace, and when you could have been connected to the family members that you could be connected to now, but in a toxic way, but how about if they were in a very good way, and you bring in that energy, and again, energy just never dies, it just is always, it's always alive, and it's always there, so it's just bringing in that to transmute anything that comes in with that burr kind of, you know, those fur burr balls where you walk through the woods and they stick to you. It's like having those. Do you guys have those there in Vancouver? Those burrs?
I don't think so, but I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Horseback riding yours there.
Yeah. So that's where we're like thinking about, like when I get into the balls and tubes, that we're getting all those burrs off our balls, and then we're able to pounce our balls and have a little bit of fun, because a lot of times we forget to have fun here. And then and then again, as far as like what I was saying, as far as the tennis balls, as far as people rejecting it, they're not doing it. So something's hitting globally on a real deep level as far as us remembering that to transmute, to want to clear up those balls, the crystal balls, to look into them and have fun and to do deep cellular healing, and because we're in a fun, wild ride time now.
So for those who are, thinking they're going to get burned at the stake in some form again by being seen, how do they transmute that and step through that?
I encourage people to do a lot of throat chakra stuff, to do a lot of singing, a lot of yelling. I tell people to put themselves in an egg, 2 feet above them, 2 feet below them, 2 feet all around, and scream. I tell people even swear down to their toes, like get that chakra open, a guttural fear, like that kind of thing. And when they do that, it opens up, especially if they do like guttural sounds. It opens up to the back of the throat chakra, but also it goes back up to the lymphatic part of the brain and the reptilian part of our brain. And that's where, again, holds our cellular memory, and it also holds that fight or flight there. And so the more we start making like gateways to go up to that part, to have it have flexibility instead of this freeze part, so it's stuck on, so the vent is always stuck on hyper, to be afraid and freezing. We have the vent open to have flexibility, so then all of a sudden they're not, to realize that they're not going to get burned here this time, that was then, and this is, and so to go there and say, okay, all right, now I understand that was then, but now I'm going to go there and even put light around it. I'm going to take my gifts there, and I'm going to go beyond, because I'm not going to get burned. And then, you know what, Nicole, I even said to somebody, worst case scenario, just go ahead. We come back again. Just go for it. And that's the divine surrender. I even said to myself, because I've had many, many lifetimes where I get burned, and I would have my saboteur where I could get afraid, and then I said, you know what? Life goes on. But it was a divine surrender, and it's not about me getting burned again or that I'm going to die again. It's my cellular tissue. I said, I have absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain. So just release at a divine level. Surrender over to the divine and start acting to the divine. And as soon as I did that, I'm still alive and well. I'm not planning on going anywhere. And it just had this huge block release from my throat and my heart that helped me get out of any kind of really fear thing, especially when it comes up to being exposed to, because of you that were burned before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping we've helped a lot of people here today by having this conversation.
Yeah, I'm sure we have, because it's really coming up. I'm seeing in a lot of people's energy fields in a very huge way for healing, because I think we even needed to have Brian Weiss and for 20 or 30 years, or especially the last 20, 15 years of people really starting to get interested in this. Now I really believe, Nicole, you're here to help people go on to the next level, and me, to go to the next level of, okay, now that we know that there is past lives, and let's get the themes and transmute them. And again, it's not that we can't go there and go and get the beauty of it and to get some knowledge of those past lives. It's like let's take that and again start getting the themes where we could really be have those times come and empower us like support systems from the heavens.
Well, I'm very honored to be sharing this adventure with you, Kerrie.
Yes.
And I'm glad that you were here. InsideOut-OutsideIn.com. Phone Kerrie. Get a hold of her. Do a session with her if you're working through some of this stuff and you need some help. That's where I recommend you go. And, just in closing about the veil thing after we talked last, I went out to photograph outside because you'd mentioned that you had orbs showing up like crazy outside in your backyard. And I thought, And I actually went out at night. It actually looked like orbs funneling into my roof from heaven.
Oh, wow. Isn't that wonderful?
I thought it was so funny. I've been running around trying to catch one orb or two orbs in here, and there's like a million, right on top of my house.
That is so wonderful. And it is just, that's another thing. You know what? A lot more people are getting the orbs, the clients. I'm saying, go out and get the camera and go look at the orbs. And they're starting to do it because then they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, and especially, isn't that wonderful? A funnel of gazillion of angels going down there in and pretend they're around your house, they're protecting the house. You're calling in the high kahuna guys. And that's wonderful. But that's the veil definitely is getting thinner, and people are able to recognize it. That's wonderful. That's very cool.
Well, these are exciting times, and let's see where it goes next.
Alrighty.